Merry Christmas and welcome to Global Business. It's the holiday season and we are in the season of celebrations. We're going to be celebrating today on Global Business, also talking business really. Anyway, remember that we started the Celestina Obikea interview last week about budget tracking for 2017. Well, we'll continue that interview this week, but also this week we shall be looking at insulating the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. That's the ERGP. If you don't know about the ERGP, you should Google it and check it out. What's the ERGP about? It's the government's plan for 2017 to 2020. It's a government's plan for recovery of the economy and growth of the economy. Well, has the economy recovered? Is it growing? What are the political storms that await ERGP in 2018? There are storms that can hit ERGP and worsen the economy in 2018. We'll have Professor Ode Ojowu. He'll be telling us in the first part interview what those storms are, and we'll know whether we'll get to the part of how to stop the storms in 2018. It's Global Business Celebration Day. Welcome. Did you have challenges? I mean, did you have people who really didn't want to listen to you in these communities?
So not in this specific community, but we've had challenges. We've had communities where we go and people tell you, oh, look, we're not interested.
Exactly.
We've done this.
They're not interested in their own development.
They're not interested in even asking questions. They're not interested in even, they're like, oh, just take this away. We don't want this, you know. This
and did they give reasons?
So a lot of them, sometimes it's about the volatility. There's probably some tensions in the community, maybe factions, some political tensions or communal clashes, and we really don't want to get involved in stuff in situations like that. So it's really more of an advisement to say, okay, guys, this is not really an environment that you want to get involved in at this time. It's not the right time to get involved in our community affairs. But at other times, it's been a question of just complete lack of interest in the system or distrust. Going from years of engagement that nothing has really happened. And that's why the government needs to work extra hard to ensure that this trust comes back. The level of responsiveness really needs to come up so people can know that these things actually happen, they're possible, and it's happening already in some other communities. So your community should really not be left out.
Okay, so tell us about the other projects. You talked about Mbele,
yes.
Talked about Ogomaide and all
yes.
that.
So both Mbele and Ogomaide are projects that under the Niger Delta Development Commission, NEDC.
Okay, that's the Mbele project.
Yes, this is Mbele. And Ogomaide.
Tracking.
This is Ogomaide, yes.
This is Ogomaide, tracking the construction
classrooms.
of block of
classrooms
at Ogomaide
primary school.
This is just for primary school.
Yeah, this is for primary school.
One of many primary schools probably in Ogomaide.
Yes. So this is for building Mbele, tracking NEDC funding.
Perimeter fencing.
Lands.
How do you fence this kind of building?
Exactly. But that's why it's also important that we go into the communities to link up and visualize what this money is about. So because ordinarily,
it's a health center.
Yeah, this is a health center.
So you want to fence, you want to protect this health center.
Exactly. So it just goes to beg the question of how some of these fundings are actually allocated sometimes. Do the people actually go on ground to see what really the case is, or is it just the question of saying, okay, maybe this primary healthcare center was constructed 5-10 years ago, and you say, okay, it's been constructed, let us continue from there. Oh, it was not fenced, let us allocate money for fencing. But did anybody actually go to this community to see what's actually happening, or what is on ground, or what is obtainable at this time? Those are questions that only the state or NDDC itself can answer. But the real issue now, this is an NDDC project, yes. But the real issue now is that because the way procurement goes, we know it's not just enough for a particular amount of money to be allocated in the budget. We say 20 billion naira for provision of classrooms or construction of classrooms. So there's really a difference, and that's part of the things that we have learned in our work over the years. There's really a difference between budgeting, making an allocation, a budgetary allocation and release. Then there's also a difference between release and implementation. Then even in implementation, there's really a difference between actual implementation to follow what was budgeted or what was released as against what you get on ground.
So it's probable that this project, which is one of the I know about 300 projects. Oh, about 300 projects were 300 projects for the NDDC for 2017. And considering the fact that the 2017 budget was just signed into law in the middle of the year, it's probable that this project didn't get enough money funding for it. You know, the government, I know, has said they have released about 1.2 trillion so far, but maybe the NDDC haven't gotten enough to reach this project.
And that's part of the problems we're talking about.
Now, did you track the other 299 projects?
No, we did not. So the way we work, it's not possible if we were to even track all 299. I'm not even sure 5 years will be enough for us to do this.
Yeah.
So what we do is, in a chunk, in that large chunk, in the cases of NDC where you have a large chunk of projects, we pick out specific ones in specific states because our campaigns are run in such a way that we need to track them to particular communities. Okay. So it needs to have a name. I need to know that this is going to a Gbele community and this is a specific amount of money. I need to know that this is going to Okpanam community and this is a specific amount of money. I need to be able to link it. That's why we say we do real on the ground truth. If not, I probably will not be able to say this is the primary healthcare center or go down to see that this is actually the situation on ground. But the real issue now is that we can't even say for certain, so all we're doing now is we're just making conjectures.
Okay, so now did you try to get information from the NDDC?
Oh, several times. So we've written FOI letters twice, Freedom of Information Back letters. We've written letters for courtesy visit. We've even had a meeting. I personally, with one of my colleagues, had a meeting with the executive chairman of the NDDC. And at that meeting, he promised that he will do all he can, or all he could, to facilitate us.
As the chairman of the board, Senator
Ode Ojowu, yes. We met with him in his office in Abuja here, I think about 3 months ago.
Udoma Egba, I think.
Udoma Egba, yes.
No, not Udoma. Udoma is the minister.
Minister, oh yes, budget.
Udoma Egba.
Egba. Anyway, we met with him in his office in Abuja here over 3 months ago, and he promised to facilitate the process. Till now, we haven't got any response.
So you don't have any information about the Mbele project?
Not just Mbele, but even all the others. Okay, they say, okay, this is how much NDDC has received in 2017. So if it's even the case that, for the fact that the budget was passed late, the money, they've not gotten enough money, let us even know. Let us know that this is how much you got. You got 10% at this amount. You got 30% of what was allocated to you at this amount. And this is how far that money could go. These are questions we need to be answered. But when we don't have those answers, all we keep doing is keep making conjectures and, okay, say extrapolating and say, oh, this was not done. But let us know what was done, how much was released, what was done with the money. That's what we're saying.
Is the Ogbomide project
also an NDDC? Yes, it is.
Let's see the Ogbomide.
This is not
supposed to be a school?
No, this is not a school. So this is the community head, the house of where the town hall meeting was held.
Okay.
So we had a town hall meeting for this project, and it's still the same thing, the same issues that we have in Mbele. We can't really go far to even engage further because you don't even know how much you're dealing with. You don't know what process they are in. Has money been released? Has the contracting process started? Is there a contractor who is in charge of this project? Has the project started? When is it supposed to start? What are they supposed to do? When is it supposed to end? So that we can also even follow up with the contractor. The community can also be involved in the process. We've had calls back and forth with the community asking us what's happening. They're not here. But we can't even supply those answers because we don't have them either. And we can't even direct the community to say, okay, we've told them, okay, Even down to the NDDC offices in these states, we've written letters. Not a single reply. We've tried to follow up several times. The bureaucracy of the system. We've had to send one of our people here all the way from Abuja to Port Harcourt to go down to the NDDC office in Port Harcourt. The 2 times she went, it was a whole, we had to use personal connections to even get her to get into the office in the first place to say, okay, I dropped the letter, we dropped the letter some months ago, we need to follow up on the letter to see how far it has gone. We haven't gotten a response. Officially, going by the Freedom of Information Act, we're supposed to get a response within 7 days. It's been 3 months now, we haven't gotten a response. And we're coming by ourselves now to follow up. But we can't even have access to go into the office to follow up. So these are some of the issues that we deal with. The bureaucracy, the opacity in the system, the unwillingness. Some of them would actually even tell you, oh, we're not even obliged. You write letters to some state governors, they would reply you back to say that the Freedom of Information letter is not domesticated in their state, so they're not even obliged to answer you. They tell you quite plainly. So if you're coming by the freedom, so even if you are saying or you have decided, which our legal people have even taken a standpoint to say that that's a completely baseless argument to say that the freedom of, this is a federal law and it applies, it has a general statute of application across the federation. But even if you're trying to use that as an excuse, if you're saying the Freedom of Information Act has not been domesticated in your state, you don't also have accountability, morality. So you don't think that you're morally or financially accountable. So these people have elected you for you to lord issues over them. You don't feel at any point in the process that you have a moral, even if, let's not even take it to governance now. You don't even feel that you have a moral obligation to answer their questions or to be open. So these are some of the issues that we deal with, and that's where the breakdown in trust comes in.
Now, in April 2017, President Muhammadu Buhari launched the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, 2017 to 2020 plan that was supposed to take us out of recession and, of course, put us on a growth path that will lead to a solid economy, probably leading Nigeria to one of the top 20 economies in the year 2020. Now, the ERGP is already ongoing. Of course, it's being instituted and, of course, infused into the 2018 budget that we hope will soon be passed and, of course, come into action. But there are fears concerning the ERGP. Some people, in fact, led by the former Chief Economic Advisor to President Olusegun Obasanjo, are talking about politics, how politics may affect the ERGP. And in 2018, we all know, is an election year. An election year because it is the year before the elections, and that's when campaigns are really heated up till next year, or next 2 years, which is 2019, when the election proper will take place. Elections, according to history, are said to have affected Nigeria's economy. In fact, the effect of the 2015 election is so massive on the Nigerian economy is said to have taken about 0.42% of our GDP. We're talking more of this with the professor, who is the former chief economic advisor to President Olusegun Obasanjo, Professor Ode Ojowu. He was economic advisor between 2004 and 2005. And he'll be telling us about his fears or concerns about the ERGP. Professor, you're welcome to Talking Point.
Thank you very much.
Prof, tell us about your concerns for the ERGP, especially concerning the elections.
Well, thank you very much. You will recall that I first raised this issue in Kano under a program of meeting the professional pressmen like you, organized by the NDIC. And I raised it because we're in a very, very critical situation now. And the ERGP is like no other, because the ERGP is set in a crisis and designed to get out of crisis. So if an ERGP itself is consumed by the crisis, then we're in a very serious situation. That was why I raised the fact that we need to take all the steps we need to insulate the implementation of the ERGP from the political storm. And to me, the immediate political storm before us is the coming election. Initially, I was fearing that a series of things would happen that could completely derail the ERGP. If, for example, we insisted on the census for 2018, and then we had to do an election in 2019, that would have been virtually impossible. But from all indications, the census has been set aside, because I don't think there's any provision for it in the budget. But we still have elections coming up. And you can see that in addition to the regular election tensions, the parties themselves are so tensed up in the way they relate that we need to seriously begin to think about how to insulate the ERGP from the political storm that is coming. I'm using political storm in a positive sense, not as if it's going to wipe out things, but it can wipe out the implementation of the plan if, from previous experiences, we do not try to insulate it from the effects of campaigns. What the campaign does, first of all, is to take away people's minds from the economy, and also, in large measure, to take away the resources of the economy from the plan.
Let's start from 2015. Let's look at history, because many people will say, oh, you are just talking, what is the history? Let's look at the most recent elections that have taken place, which is the 2015 elections. What toll did the 2015 election take on the Nigerian economy?
Well, it is difficult to measure exactly what toll, because during that 2015 period, too many things happened. And throughout the period, we never really focused on the toll of elections on the economy. But in 2015, you recall that there was an external shock to the system in terms of falling oil prices. And that is what everybody thinks has derailed the economy. But there was more than that. Throughout that election campaign period, lots of money was spent. And in fact, it was estimated that about $2 billion were spent equivalent.
Which is about that time about 900 billion naira.
Yes.
Because or 400 billion naira, rather, I beg your pardon. 400 billion naira, because the exchange rate was about 200 naira.
As at that time.
As at that time.
Yes. So about 2 billion naira was, $2 billion was said to have been spent, out of which the institutional expenditure was about 547 billion by INEC and other.
$547 million dollars.
Yes.
Spent by INEC.
Yes, the balance was spent by parties and candidates. And we are talking of expenditure that was traceable. Billboards, advertisements, and all that. Behind the scene expenditures were not included in this. And the major problem with the 2015 election, like the ones before, was that previously people were bringing in dollars to exchange to naira and then to use. But this time around, dollars were being used. The electoral process, part of it was dollarized, which meant that it added more to withdrawing of money from circulation. Now, people will ask and say, but if you spend the money during the election, it should help the economy rather than destroy it. Partly yes, but mostly no. Because during that period, it was a period of intense expenditure, the bulk of which was a leakage out of the system. Most of the material that INEC used for elections were brought from outside. And locally, other than the advertisement of newspapers and radio and television, the bulk of the expenditure also meant giving money to people and not using it the proper way. It is not just spending. How we spend is equally important.
Because actually many people think that elections are a way to make money.
Yes.
So that's why it's surprising that you were saying that at the time when people are as politicians are spending money or distributing funds.
The general impression, which is fairly reasonable, was that much of this money was taken from the public till. And therefore, money that was meant to build a bridge was taken away from building a bridge and distributed to people in small quantities across the country. So the achievement in terms of distributing the money is not made. It's just like taking money that is meant to build a bridge and distributing it to 1 million people. There's no bridge, there's no improvement in the life of those people either. And so there's a lot of money that goes under the carpet during this period. And more importantly, the capital project suffers the most because recurrent expenditures in terms of wages and salaries are statutorily defined. Although in recent times, as you can see, those ones are not even being paid anymore. So when you have an election coming like this, and what is really critical is that the 2015 election, the economy was still growing at 6-point-something% and started declining in 2015. But this time around, the economic growth is coming from the bottom up. So if we hit it down this time, we may go beyond the recession into a depression. So that's my worry.
Well, we have come out of recession and we are growing at very marginal rates. But beyond the spending, what other storms do you think can affect this ARGP?
A lot of other things can happen. For example, even in normal times, we are deep in crisis. As you recall, I attested to the tenacity, the resilience of the Nigerian economy in spite of the many problems that it faces. The entire Northeast is economically locked down. You recall that the conflict between the herdsmen and farmers is a disincentive to investment. And in addition to that, the various agitations that come up are also a disincentive to investment. And it is likely that the political campaign period may be a period for all these agitations to come up in gear and likely to distort a lot of economic activities, both locally and to also discourage foreigners from coming in. So these are really serious threats that are coming to the system that might be amplified because of the election period. Because during this election period, people agitate because they think that they are going to get more concessions than they would have gotten before, which means that all these agitations, whether suppressed or in the open, are likely to take a lot of attention away from proper resource use.
Welcome back. And so this is where we wrap it up on the program Global Business this Christmas Day. And remember that Christmas is for loving, is for giving, and is for also visiting and enjoying. So enjoy yourself to the fullest with wisdom, because we don't want to have post-Christmas issues that will affect you anyway negatively. This is where we wrap it up on Global Business for 2017. Congratulations. Yes, this is the last edition for 2017, and I can tell you it's been wonderful doing business with you in 2017. I have made so much profit doing business with you. I hope the feeling is mutual. I am Imewo Yokomokai. See you in 2018.